Welcome to my channel, Surprise Comics. This is Matt coming back with a contest entry. Start off by showing this Batman v Superman set they sold last year at Comic-Con. Really hard to get, so I was pretty lucky to get the one I did get. It's a pretty cool setup with the little light and stuff on it with the packaging, so I thought I'd just show that off before I get into the contest entries. Today, this video is actually for two entries. This is for Tou's and Marco808. They both had like a questionnaire type contest. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the questions. I'm going to show you some visual aids to go along with them. And Tou's first question is, which comic book movies are you looking forward to the most? And, obviously I'm looking forward to Batman v Superman. But in all honesty, it's probably not the one I most anticipated. I've seen Superman movies before. I've seen Batman movies before. But what I haven't seen before is a Suicide Squad movie. So my number one pick for this year is Suicide Squad. I'm really looking forward to that. So, Suicide Squad's always been one of my favorite concepts as far as comic books have been. I'm a big Dirty Dozen fan from way back in the day before I was born. But I've always enjoyed the villains trying to make right and stuff like that. So I think the Suicide Squad, the previews, it looks pretty awesome. The way the Joker looks is different than what we've seen before, but different doesn't mean it's bad necessarily. And so I'll see how that goes. And I'm excited to catch that one in August, but I'm definitely going to be watching almost every other one before then. Like Batman v Superman, Civil War, I'm definitely looking forward to. The next question was, what comic book movie will be a surprise hit? And when I started thinking about it, it was actually kind of a tough question because I wouldn't be surprised if any of the superhero movies come out this year were hits. That wouldn't be really shocking. Deadpool looks pretty awesome, but the R rating might hurt it financially as far as how much money it can actually make based on that rating. But it's probably, it probably isn't going to affect it a whole lot. It might be 20 million, 40 million less, but by the time it's done, I expect it to be in, the mid-hundreds as far as how much money it's made. So, like 120 to 150 range. So it's going to do very well based on the budget and stuff like that, even with the R rating. Probably open up in the 40s. But we'll see. It might even do better than that. Who knows? I just know when I was the kid, that would have been the movie I would want to see more than anything. That would be the movie I would not have been allowed to go to. So I don't know how that will affect it going forward. But the one I picked for the surprise hit actually surprised me. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 2. And I'm going to put this comic book up just because I don't, as a representation. And the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was just awful. It's one of the worst movies I think I've seen in a long time. And I'm not talking about the first one back in the 90s or late 80s. That one was pretty bad too. But that one is just like with the weird monster-looking turtles. And Megan Fox is such an awful actress. She's just, she's just awful. It's just horrible. She ruined the Jonah Hex movies. She was awful in the Transformer movies. And I know she's going to be in the sequel again, but it looks like they're trying to make up for it by introducing some characters that we always wanted to see. I remember as a kid going to see Ninja Turtles Part 2, The Secret of the Ooze, and they brought in those two weird mutants. And I'm like, why not just bring in Bebop and Rocksteady? It's the one that we all loved from the cartoon. It's the characters that we all wanted to see, and they brought in like some snapping turtle and a dog and mutated them into the big monsters. And now they finally got Bebop, they got Rocksteady. It looks like they have Krang, they have Casey Jones. And so rather than just try to put their own spin on it, they're going to take everything that everyone loved Ninja Turtles for the last 20 years and put that in. So big props for that. Hopefully it turns out well. I'm hoping I'm going to be surprised that it's not going to be as bad as the other one. but we'll just have to wait and see. Next question was, who you want to see that's a villain in the next Spider-Man movie? And my pick is the Black Cat. She's one of the more interesting villains in Batman or in Spider-Man's rogue gallery. Just the duality, her secret identity as Felicia Harding, the relationship romantically. I just think there's a lot of ways you can go with that character, and it wouldn't just feel like the same Spider-Man movie that we've already seen 5 times before. You can do a little bit of romance, a little bit of comedy, and kind of mix it up a little bit. She definitely doesn't have to be the only villain. You could probably throw someone else in there too, but I think it would be best to focus on the relationship and developing. It would be also a good way to kind of, diversity. We've seen Mary Jane, we've seen Gwen Stacy. Let's see Felicia Harding in a Spider-Man movie. At least, I don't know if it'd be the most popular pick, but I think it would be the more interesting and the better story that you could come up with using her as the character. And the last, or not the last question, but the next question is, what should the next X-Men title be? And they've done, like in the more recent X-Men movies, the last, First Class and Days of Future Past, I really like how they're going with the period pieces with those. And, the next one, Apocalypse, is going to take place in the late 70s, early 80s, they're saying. And so I think going along with that, the next villain should be Omega Red. Just with the time period, the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and kind of mixing all the characters that are in this storyline with the characters they're developing in the movie. This seems like would be a good way to go to introduce Omega Red. There's obviously a lot of other good choices. The Phoenix Saga would be good, but I think you want to develop Jean Grey for a couple movies before you do the Phoenix Saga. The way they did it with Last Stand and things like that just didn't really work well for me. I think you definitely want to use the cosmic stuff and things with that. But that's my choice, is Omega Red is the name of the next one, or, the X-Men Cold War or something like that, just to kind of pull the Russians in and the Cold War and nukes and all that stuff you can have going with it. So the last question Tua had was rain or snow. I live in Arizona, so my answer is neither. But if I had to pick one, it's rain every single time. I went to college up in Utah, and driving around in snow is the most insane thing anyone can ever do. Having lived in snow and having lived in the deserts, and, I live down in Florida on the coast and stuff, it just baffles me where the cities are in the world. Like, why would you ever build a city where it snowed all the time? It just doesn't make sense to me. But, rain sucks too, but I'd much rather have the rain than have to deal with the cold and the snow and the ice on the roads and all that stuff. So that's it. That's Tua's contest entry. Tua's great channel, always giving advice, making helpful comments on videos. Knows what he's talking about. Man, he goes to flea markets and he pulls books all the time that I just can't believe he gets for the deals he gets. So, definitely check out his channel. Super nice guy, at least the way he presents himself on the channel. He might be a jerk in real life, who knows, but I really doubt it. So they'll move on to Marco808, and he hasn't been around for as long. I think Tua's contest was like a 600 subscriber contest, and I think Marco's is a 100. So you can tell they're a little bit different ends of the spectrum as far as how long they've been around for. But his channel is really awesome. He's from Hawaii, so definitely a different perspective as far as comics and stuff that get out to the islands and stuff. In Arizona, I feel like sometimes, it seems like a lot of the good comic shops and a lot of places where you can find good collections and stuff seem to be in New York and the LA area. There's older collectors, there's older collections that are out there, so more like silver and Bronze Age stuff circulates there. Out here in Arizona, when people are looking to sell their old comics, we're talking about stuff from the early '90s. So and it's a little bit different there, but I can't imagine what it's like in Hawaii. I've only went there as a tourist on my honeymoon, but I don't know much about the comic collecting scene out there. So it's kind of cool to see his perspective and his hauls and stuff when he gets out there. So his first question was talk about a book that impacted you. And I'm going to go with Batman from the New 52 #1. It's my graded copy. It's a 9.6. It's actually the first book I ever bought that I paid more than like $20 for. I think I got this for like $35 a couple years ago before it got really high. This book impacted me a lot because it really changed the way I started collecting comics. I collected comics when I was a kid, and mostly I collected X-Men and Marvel books. And then, 2-3 years ago when I got back into collecting, I kind of looked at the landscape of things. I saw, Marvel charged a lot more for their books, and they had them coming out twice a month. And DC had them cheaper. And I started reading some posts, and people were all talking about how great Scott Snyder's storylines were doing. So I read a few of them, really liked him, so I started collecting Batman from the New 52. And then the more I read Batman, the more I wanted to read other Batman stories. And then all of a sudden I went from being a Marvel guy to a DC guy, mostly because of this book. And this book is just, this whole first story arc from Batman in the New 52, the Court of the Owls, it's just really profound the way it starts out. You have beginning of this story, Batman is talking about Gotham and how great Gotham is and how he knows Gotham and how he is Gotham. And, he thinks he's on top of the world. He thinks he has everything handled and nothing can take him down. And he thinks he knows Gotham better than anyone. And it turns out all this time, there's all this stuff going on in Gotham that he had no clue about with the Court of the Owls. And kind of, pride comes before the fall. Batman falls pretty far in this book, or in this storyline, and how he has to build himself back up and overcome the challenges, that things he thought about his past, about his parents, that he was completely off on and he didn't know about. And it's just a great storyline. If you haven't read it, it's a must read. I always think about comics and storylines and stuff. What storylines are they going to be talking about in 10 years? Which ones are they going to talk about in 20 years? Which one are they going to be talking about in 30 years? And I think Batman Court of the Owls storyline is one of those storylines that's going to endure for a very long time. It's going to go down on the list of top Batman stories of all times. And so definitely a great book, great story. Next question is superhero crush. And my superhero crush, the first one I can think of, or I guess first superhero crush, not current ones or anything about like that. But I remember as a little kid watching the Batman 66 show. And every time there'd be a Batgirl episode, I'd like it a little bit more. And I really didn't know why I liked it a little bit more because I was probably too young to even understand. But Yvonne Craig as Batgirl was probably my first superhero crush. I remember the shows that I liked more than I probably should have was Batman 66 and Gilligan's Island, with Mary Jane. Where those were the shows that really caught my attention. So that was probably a crush before I even knew what a crush was. But then after that, we have to go back to early 90s when I started when I was 11, 12 years old, 13 years old. And I actually started having real crushes that I understood. And it was all about the X-Men. My particular crush was on Jean Grey and Rogue, were my two ones I had the crush. I remember having heated discussions with one of my friends where we argued between Psylocke and Rogue on which one was better and stuff like that. So he was on the team Psylocke, I was on team Rogue. We had pretty good discussions and arguments over which one was better. So that's that. The third thing Marco wanted to share is some information about myself. I guess I've shared some already in this video. I'm 35 years old. Lived in Arizona most of my life. I was actually born in Montana and lived in Wyoming when I was a little kid. I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con off and on for 25 years. My dad has a booth there that he does every year. He's like probably the smallest guy there still. It's really been taken over by big vendors. You don't see like the weekend warrior types as much there, but my dad's still one of those weekend warriors who does shows here and there throughout the year. That's about it. If you have any other questions, the things you want to know, Marco, just go ahead and type a question down in the comment. I don't know really what kind of information you're looking for, but that's it. I hope everyone enjoyed my little answers to these questions. I tried to give you some visual aids as I went along. Thanks for watching. I hope you had a good time.